This is episode 298 of the Beyond the Food Show, and today we're going to talk about having our own back. And I'm going to teach you how to have your own back. Because truly, if we don't have our own back, who will? Stay tuned. Welcome to the Going Beyond the Food Show. I'm Stephanie Dozier, clinical nutritionist and creator of the Going Beyond the Food method. And after a 25-year dieting career that started at the age of 12, I decided to say hell no to diet culture and undiet my life. It is now my mission to help women undiet their life. If you're new to our podcast, be sure to grab our free podcast roadmap at stephaniedozier.com/roadmap. Ready, sisters? Let's do this. Hello, sisters. Welcome back. Before we get into today's teaching, I have an announcement to make. I will be doing a Ask Stephanie Anything Live webinar. I have been receiving such great questions from you. And honestly, the last time we did a live workshop, the Rebellious Eating webinar, the Q&A session was on fire. And I loved it. I literally vibrated of energy when I left that Q&A session. So why not do another one? And this time it's going to be just Q&A. I love chatting with you. I love coaching you. I love helping you. So let's do this again. November the 9th. November 9, 1 p.m. EST. You will need to register. It is free. Before you ask, it's free. You will need to register to give me an email so I can send you the link for the virtual room where we will meet as a group and do this Ask Stephanie Live webinar together. It's really simple. You can either go in the show note, or if you're on your handheld device, stephaniedozier.com/live. I'm open to answer any question about food, about health at every size, about body image, about mindsets, about goals. Specifically, if some of you are starting to think about 2022, I know the new year is coming. If you have any goals that you have in mind that you would like to get some coaching on, I'm here for you. I'll also teach you the very quick self-coaching model that we teach inside of Undiet Your Life, the program. Actually, I teach this thought work model in every one of my program, all of my professional program and Undiet Your Life, all kickstart with this model. So I'll teach it to you quickly so that you can start using it in your life as soon as you leave the webinar. You can use it with intuitive eating. You can use it with body acceptance and your goals for 2022. So it's honestly a game changer tool. And if you are already inside of Undiet Your Life, the program, you can still come. It'll be like one of our live coaching call, but with a bigger crowd. And if you're not inside Undiet Your Life, if you're not one of our students, I absolutely encourage you to come, because this is your chance to learn the tool and ask any question. This tool can change your relationship to food and body. This is the way through to permanent transformation with food, body image, and anything else in your life, honestly. I don't like to use this claim, anything else in your life, because I think it's like scares people off, but that's the truth. You'll be able to ask any one of our students. It goes way beyond the food. That's the name of our company, by the way. So right now, I know some of you's human brain is probably saying, oh my God, I just don't have the time. I'm too busy. Sister, this is your opportunity to have your own back and make time in your schedule. Come, get coached, ask questions, learn the tool, and start doing what you want to do with food and body image right now. And with this is going to be the segue in today's teaching, how to have our own back. Truth is, when we were growing up, we were taught to have our loved one back, to be prepared and be willing to support our family member, our brothers, our sisters, to demonstrate unconditional compassion to those people close to us, and to look out for the people close to us in their best interests. When someone has your back, you share a mutual bond of affection. But how often do you show that level of compassion to yourself? So, what does it mean to have your own back? When things don't go your way, the way you had planned them to go, having your own back means that you will support yourself, that you will have compassion for yourself. And it also means believing in your own potential, like your loved one around you believe in your potential. Having your own back means that you're going to believe in yourself, that you're going to take risk on yourself. You're going to invest in yourself. You're going to believe in your full capacity. Basically, having your own back means being your own damn best friend. Let's get specific. Let me give you a few examples. Having your own back means that when things don't go the way that things are supposed to go, you are kind to yourself, both in external action, but more important, in your internal conversation, your own chatter with yourself. You don't beat yourself up when you have your own back. Having your own back means you will be compassionate. You will take care of yourself no matter what, through failure, through disappointment. You will treat yourself the same way that people that have your back around you would treat you, no matter what the outcome. Another place where having your own back shows up is when you make decisions. We often get stuck in confusion and not knowing what to do and over-analyzing our choices because we're afraid to make the wrong choice. But when you have your own back and you make a decision, you will not question yourself or your choices after the fact. You will back up your own decision. You will not criticize yourself for your choice. You would not play the what if scenario. And even if you fail, instead of, quote, beating yourself up, you will look at what happened, learn from it, and try again. Here's another common one that really will resonate with a lot of you. Having our own back in the part of your life that is exercise or movement mean that you will not push your body beyond its capacity. You will learn to listen and respect your own body. Makes sense, right? Nothing here is new. We know we should all, quote, do this, but we don't. Specifically, what I hear the most from my student is in your own mind. The internal narrative that we have with ourselves is where we most often don't have our own back. I hear frequently from women, I want to stop beating myself. I want to be nicer to myself because I know I could do so much more if I was kind and compassionate with myself. So why are we doing this? Why are we constantly berating ourselves and beating ourselves up? Because we have been trained through diet culture to do just that. Most of us here in this community, through our years and sometimes decades of chronic dieting, we have hurt ourselves. We have physically, mentally, emotionally hurt ourselves. We have punished ourselves in retribution for our body, our weight, not going the way we thought, the way diet culture told us it should go or it should look like. We starved ourselves. We over-exercised. We exhausted ourselves in the chase of health and happiness. We squeezed our body in clothes that were so damn tight. We would hold self-care, kindness towards ourselves until, quote, we lost the weight. In fact, diet culture told us that treating ourselves in that way was taking care of ourselves. That was having your back. That unless you were this thin, we didn't deserve kindness and compassion. We've been socialized to the wrong version of having our own back. But here's the truth. We are innately wired to have our own back. But we unlearned the skill set. And instead, we learned to beat ourselves up into submission. And for many of us, it in fact started perhaps even before diet culture. A great example of that is a type of parenting called conditional parenting. I call it often the, quote, old school way of raising kids. That's the parenting model that has rules, punishment, treats, rewards, bribes. I know I was raised under that model, and many of the people that I coach and teach to have been raised under that model. And today, in 2020, the science is really clear. This model of parenting does not work. It leads children to be disconnected, uncompassionate, and rebellious. Raise your hand if that's you, towards yourself today. But that's how many of us were raised. And so we've learned to behave in a way that we needed punishment and reward in order to change a behavior. And at 40, we still behave like that with ourselves because we've never examined that pattern of thinking and interaction with ourselves. Having my own back is something that I had to learn personally when I went through the journey of intuitive eating. When I began the recovery process of going back to a normal eating pattern, that's what we call intuitive eating process, I had to release the rules and habituate myself back to the food that were once restricted. That's what we do with our student inside of Undiet Your Life. For me, one of the most powerful food that had control over me was bread. Because bread, for almost a decade, if not longer, had been on my forbidden food list. And I had strong belief that had been built over that decade that bread was bad. And that bread was bad because of health and because of weight, and that I should not desire it. It was strong enough, that belief, that I would shame, guilt, berate myself just with the thought of wanting to have bread. But through the process of intuitive eating, how you reacquire a normal relationship to food, I had to break that pattern. And for that, I had to buy bread and bring bread in the house to be always available. And as expected, as my coach and my teacher told me, the pendulum of eating would swing. I would crave bread all the time, and I would have to give it to myself. That's the process of habituation. But my self-critical voice inside of me, if anyone who's been through intuitive eating without having your own back, like not having the mindset tool to have your own back, it's tough, guys. Woo. The self-critical voice inside of me had all kinds of judgment and critical voice, literally on repeat all day long. You eat too much bread. You're a bad person. You're lazy. You shouldn't want this. Like the voice were constantly taking mental space in my brain. I had to learn, as I was learning to habituate to bread, I was also learning in parallel to have my own back, to not criticize myself for wanting and desiring bread. And it was an internal narrative that I had to coach myself into. And it sounded something like this. I know, Stephanie, you feel ashamed right now for desiring bread. It's normal because for so long you were taught to shame yourself for desiring or eating bread. I'm here for you. Let's just sit with that shame and that guilt, and let's take a deep breath and let's feel it through our body. We're gonna get through this together. That one, that sentence, we are going to get through this together, is something that I had to intentionally think. It didn't come naturally to me. I had to put in the effort to think that thought instead of the self-critical, shaming voice, because that one was on repeat for decades. That's what I mean by coaching yourself. It's literally in your mind talking to yourself. These intentional thought is what I mean by having our own back. This is the real life moment of having your own back. These words that you speak to yourself to diffuse the guilt and the shame. It didn't make the shame and the guilt go away, but it helped me sit with it and not resist it and fight it. Through learning to having my own back, I watched the self-critical thought come by in my brain, and I was able to not entertain these thoughts, but instead think the thought, I'm here for you. We're going to get through this together. To speak to myself as if I was my own best friend. And I had to believe that it was possible for me to have a normal relationship to bread. That I would be able to not restrict bread physically and mentally. And I had to convince myself that it was the right thing to do, recognizing how hard it was, yet that I would be able to do it. Learning to have your own back is the process of developing an internal culture of unconditional self-compassion, or being your own best friend and treating yourself in a respectful and supportive way. Having your own back means that no matter what you are going through, you're going to fight for your own potential instead of limitation imposed by diet culture or patriarchy. Learning to have your own back is to train our brain to make the choice to have our own back. It's about choosing to see the possibilities in our own self. It's about choosing to believe in ourselves and understanding that failure is an opportunity to learn. Having our own back or learning to have our own back is to retrain our brain to consider the possibility of us winning. Having our own back means that we are going to fight for our own potential, not limitation. When we have our own back, let me just say this, we become a hell of a lot more productive with our time, because making decision is a swift and quick process, because we are not afraid of how we're going to treat ourselves if we made the wrong choice. When we have our own back, we have a much higher level of inner confidence because we don't spend hours playing the what if scenario in order to avoid a mistake. We just go for it and try. And for me, the most important outcome of learning to have my own back is my freaking peace of mind. I cannot tell you how much less anxious and stressed I am today, knowing that no matter what I do, this girl is going to have her own back, and she is not going to beat the shit out of herself in her own mind. This is actually how I found the courage to close my clinic in Toronto and invest everything I own in launching this online business called Beyond the Food. And here I am today. So let's quickly talk about what does it look like to learn to have your own back. It's about practicing what I was talking to you earlier, that step-by-step model of self-coaching is to train your brain to think in an organized way with the goal in mind of having your own back, is to train your brain to think productive thoughts about yourself. It's to train your brain to see your worthiness and your own potential, right? That's what we call intentional thinking. Just like my bread story. I decided that I was capable of doing this. I was going to stick with it. And it's the last step to learning to have your own mind, is learning to coach your brain to discard the old self-critical thought when they come up actively in the moment, right? In that moment where that thought comes up, to actively not attach to it, not entertain it, and be able to instead think your intentional thought. And then one day you realize that you have your own back, no matter what. That self-critical voice is almost phased out, 90% gone. And even when it comes up, you can coach it out of your brain. And that you see the possibility in your own damn selves. That you are chasing things in your life that you've never chased before. You're having goals that are bigger than before. And most important, you are fighting for your own potential. Undieting your life is learning to have your own back. It's unwinding the belief that led you to not have your own back. It's dismantling the limiting belief that diet culture has socialized you about yourself. And it's about relearning to think and act in a way that support your goals and desire. It's about claiming back your power, at first with food and body, but then with everything else in your life. So that's it, folks. That's what it means to have your own back. On that, I love you, sister, and I'll chat with you next week. Beyond ready to shed diet culture from your life and become the expert at your own body? Awesome. Then you need to join Undiet Your Life program. Go to stephaniedodier.com/join and join us now. Undiet Your Life is the first program of its kind with the unique combination of mindset, life coaching with intuitive eating and body image. Find your freedom, reclaim your power, and take control of your time so you can refocus on what really matters to you. Join Undiet Your Life at stephaniedodier.com/join, and I'll see you on the other side.